You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
In the category of you learn something new every day. So surfing the web, checking social media. It's on Twitter. Yes, I'm still on Twitter, even though it's taken over by Elon Musk. I don't. Anyway, so I came across a post by comic writer Kurt Busiek. Kurt's a great guy. I sat next to him at the Phoenix Con. My girlfriend kind of adopted him for the weekend. So anytime, she went to go get food for me, whatever, she stopped to make sure Kurt needed anything. So we had a great weekend together. We shared books and, book suggestions and stuff. Great guy. Really enjoyed hanging out with him. So I've been following him on social media. And somebody had posted a question about a Marvel comic character. And it's a character that's actually gone on to into the movies as well. And that would be Batroc the Leaper. And the person said they didn't really understand Batroc's name, and not the Leaper part. I think as names go, that's pretty much straightforward. You can guess why he is Batroc the Leaper. Though I would think he should be Batroc the Kicker, because he knows Savate, and that's the French martial art, kicking martial art. But no, he's Batroc the Leaper. What the person questioned was the name Batroc. He's like, what kind of name is Batroc? Well, turns out Kurt had an answer, one that I had never thought of, but it's kind of interesting. Now, he says, and I quote, "It's an ethnic slur." Now, right there, my ears kind of perked up, which is weird because I was reading the tweet. But he says it's an ethnic slur, really. Batroc, I'm convinced, is either Stan or Jack's truncation of the word Batrocian, which means frog-like. Now, okay, that makes sense because he's a leaper, he's hopping around, Batrocian, Batroc. Okay, so how does it become an ethnic slur? Well, you have to remember that Batroc is French. So while they're saying that he's frog-like because he hops around, but frog is also an insulting term to a Frenchman. And there's I tried to look up what the source of that is, what why calling a Frenchman a frog is an insult. And yeah, I couldn't come up with a definitive answer. It's everything from that the aristocracy over in France used to have toads on top of the battlements, not the battlements, but on their fences at the top. They used to have these heads of toads, and the resistance started referring to them as the French word for frogs. And then when they went into exile in England after the Revolution, the term came. Another one is because of the French's tendency to eat frog legs. I mean, it's all over the frickin' board why the whole idea of calling the French frogs, I don't know. And don't do it. Is the bottom line. It's not a nice term for them. But so that's kind of what he's insinuating, is he's called Batroc because not only does he leap around like a frog, but because he's French. Now, he goes on to say that he wasn't sure whether it was Kirby's name or Lee's name. He wasn't sure. And he said that it sounds more like a Kirby name. And I got to tell you, I happen to be in agreement with him on that. Because, Kirby had this tendency to be pretty much on the nose when it came to naming. Silver Surfer, the Black Racer, I just he liked on the nose names, but also because he had a good knowledge of science and history, which Lee wasn't really known for. Lee was more the storyteller, the crafter. So it wouldn't surprise me if Jack Kirby knew what Bafrakian meant and kind of put all that together. So yeah, that's our learn something new every day. Batroc the Leaper is because he's frog-like, and maybe not just because he's French. Stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. It is June 21st. We are really close to, if not on, the first day of summer. I don't remember if it's the 22nd or the 21st. I forgot to look it up. But we're really close to summer. We are ready to go. And it's going to be an interesting day today. We got a good lineup for you after this. We have comic collectibles, and they have a great batch of comics, including the first issue of Secret Invasion. They've got some pretty awesome Flash comics with Paul Maitland art that looks like right from the movie. So you've got like a Michael Keaton as Batman on the cover. So there's some really good lineup for comic collectibles. And then after that is Talk and Treat Trivia with guest Ray, name slips my mind, I think it's Alvara. Anyway, he's from the book Tank McGregor. So he'll be talking about Tank McGregor. And we've got Henri back tonight. There will be no 360 comics tonight. He had to take the night off due to some personal news about a pet. So he said he wasn't up for doing the show. So we send our best thoughts with him. All right, so that's our lineup for today. Today we're going to talk about The Flash and what happened with the box office and all that. We're also, have you read Void Rivals yet? I only had a chance to scan it so far. I just picked it up. I don't know. I've got a lot of mixed thoughts on a lot of that. So I'm going to sit down and read it. But like I said, I got to scan it. It's an interesting concept. I'll try to have it read tonight and give you guys my thoughts on it tomorrow if you're around, Mark. Let's see. Triple B says the bad CGI in the comic book. All right, so we're going to hit the news, and then we'll talk about the Flash and the box office and what that might mean and why it's done so poorly. And then we got some key collectibles to end the show with. So we got a good lineup, but let's go ahead and jump into the news. I didn't get to do the news yesterday, of course, because we spent the day talking about Stan, Jack, and Steve Ditko. We had a really good conversation about that yesterday with Jim Beard. But today we're going to catch up on the news. These are some short stories, but we'll jump into it. The first one actually has to do with some good news box office wise, which we didn't get from the Flash, but Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has passed the 500 million mark globally. So that's 290 million domestically. And it just seems to be going like a juggernaut. It really is. I mean, and for an animated movie, that is pretty amazing. But Let me know when the review happens. Thanks. Okay. Um, hey, Josh, good to see you. So, the fact that this movie is doing well is kind of an antithesis to the idea that there's superhero fatigue right now. I don't think it's superhero fatigue. I think it's bad movie fatigue. And we can get into that later on in the show, but I don't think you can go, oh, people are tired of superhero movies when you have Guardians of the Galaxy do well, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse do well, and then the Flash bomb. So I think, that's like trying to cover everything with one big brush. Not going to work. Um, so some controversy today, and this is probably the dumbest thing I've heard in a very long time. If you guys haven't seen it yet, Marvel has put out Secret Invasion. It dropped at midnight last night on the West Coast, 3 a.m. on the East Coast. If you haven't seen it yet, don't worry. No spoilers today. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. I'm only about 2/3 through the episode anyway. I've got about 17 minutes to go, but I had to come do the show. But the controversy has to do with the opening credits. They actually had them AI generated. And you would think, with all that's going on, all the reaction people are having to AI art, the fact that there's a writer's strike, and one of the big things that they're striking about is AI, for Marvel to come out and say, oh, well, we did AI credits on this. And I watched the credits. I knew they were AI already because the controversy blew up before I got a chance to watch it. I didn't hate the concept that they were going with, but it's not really good. It feels very painterly, like they were trying to go with an abstract art style. So from that point of view, I kind of liked it, but they really should have just hired somebody to do it. Josh is accusing me of being a scroll. Anything's possible, right? So, but now you thought, well, maybe it's just a talking point. Well, no, the actual director came out. Ali Salim has come out and said that they did use AI credits, but they did it for a specific reason, because he felt that it fit the theme of the show. He says, when we reached out to AI vendors, that was part of it. It just came right out of the shape shifting, Scroll's world identity. Who did this? Who is this? He said, adding that he doesn't really understand how that artificial intelligence work, though it kind of piqued his interest, which, again, kind of dumb. JD says, fun fact, AI art is uncopyrightable. Feel free to take the art and use it for whatever you like. Good to know. Mark says, imagine the day when we give Oscars to AI at the... I just picture a robot walking up to get this trophy, too. But yeah, the timing on this couldn't be worse. I don't know what Marvel was thinking. And if they've got any thoughts in their head, they're going to they'll try to correct this. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what they were thinking on this one. How do you decide to go AI with everything that's going on right now? So, okay, so we're going to talk about the Flash and its less than stellar opening over the weekend. But don't be surprised if it wins the second weekend as well. They're already guesstimating that it's going to be between 16 and 24 million in the second weekend. And that's mainly because there's nothing really big opening this weekend. It's like the breather moment for studios before the next big blockbuster, and that's going to be Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting that the Flash didn't do that well, but it's going to get a second week to keep top box office. And some of the ones that did really well weren't able to hang on for 2 weeks because another box office, another big movie. So JD says Adam Conover said it best. It's not artificial intelligence, it's replication software. The program by itself is useless without training material. I did hear an interesting thing, and I don't remember where I heard it, but they're starting to have problems with AI because AI goes out and samples from existing art. Well, it has become so prevalent that people are putting so much AI artwork out there that it's starting to sample from AI artwork. And where AI artwork just seems a little off from actual art, now that's being compounded. It's like making a copy of a copy of a copy. All those imperfections are getting magnified. So, there's a possibility that AI may end up eating itself. Just something to think about. That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Just kind of destroys itself over time. So, all right, let's go on. We got Sony Pictures said today that they've removed from its release date the El Muerto movie, the one that was going to star Bad Bunny as is a Spider-Man spinoff directed by Jonas Cuarón, and this would be the first Latino character lead in a Marvel live-action film. Well, the problem is that between Bad Bunny's touring schedule and the writer's strike, they just can't stick to the original release date they had, and they'd already bumped it once. So where a lot of people are going, wait, let me get this straight. You're making a movie about a wrestler in the Spider-Man universe that very few people have heard of, and you can't get Craven right. And the backlash against the Craven trailer is pretty funny. But so it's not dead. It's still in production. It's just they're not going to give it another schedule until we get through all these potential strikes, whether it's the writer's strike, the director's strike, or the actor's strike. I think the director's strike is pretty close to being averted, but the other ones are still possible. Josh says, I think there's a fundamental mischaracterization of how AI image generation actually works. Nothing is replicated, but I don't want to argue here. Okay. Josh, I'll agree with you. I do not understand quite how AI works. I don't necessarily think it's replicated. From my understanding, it just pulls from a bunch of different samples to create the parameters of designing the art. But again, I've never worked on that. I don't know the mechanics behind it. So, but that is the popular thought is that it's being pulled from it. And I don't think that's right. I think it is actually using the art out there as its parameters. But even if it is, and it's pulling from other AI to create its parameters, it would also take those flaws into the parameters. So, all right, another news story here. Gal Gadot has hinted that she might not be done playing Wonder Woman. She says that while she was out on a Netflix Tudum Fan Festival, she was asked if she would play Diana Prince again, and her quote is, "Things are being worked behind the scenes, and once the right moves arrive, you'll know about it." Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Now, they never said she wasn't going to play Wonder Woman again, and there was a third movie put into, or in the works. It's just what they were going to do with it didn't work for what Safran and Peter Safran and James Gunn wanted to do with Wonder Woman going forward and with the DC universe. So I know the director kind of walked away, and the first Wonder Woman movie was fantastic. The second one was a dumpster fire. It's no other way to say that. It was not good. So I think keeping Gal Gadot and changing directors and changing where it goes, I think that's great. I would have no problem with that. And there aren't a lot of actresses that I think really could do as well as Gal Gadot did. You know, there's just a look and a feel, and I think she's really good for it. So I think that would be great. But it's hard to say, and that it's kind of part of what we're going to talk about in the Flash, is that there's so much left unsaid about what they're doing at DC that I think it's a problem at this point. So, but we'll get to that. All right. Well, let's see. We got one more news story, and this one's kind of surprising to me. It's being reported that Marvel will not be holding a Hall H panel at San Diego Con this year. Now, of course, it'll be about a month from now, July 20th to the 23rd. But normally they have these massive panels, and then sometime, they take a year. Well, this year is the one they're taking off. Now, there's a lot of possible reasons why they're doing this. I mean, last year's panel was huge. They introduced the multiverse saga. We saw, the 3 phases. It was big. A lot came out of it. But now, if they're not there, there were some things that I kind of thought we would get at the San Diego Comic-Con. Not necessarily the announcement of more movies. I mean, they've already kind of, we've gone through phase 4. They've announced most of phase 5 into phase 6. And now they're starting to try to scale it back a little bit. They're trying to, control things a little better. So that doesn't surprise me. But I really thought we would get a Fantastic Four announcement at San Diego, because this project is supposed to be moving forward. We should be in production by, early 2024 if it's going to come out. But yeah, I'm a little surprised that they're not going to do it. Now, they will have a presence at Comic-Con on the floor, so there's still a chance some news might come out. But yeah, they're not doing a big panel. Now, I don't know if Disney's doing a panel. They could bump on that. They just don't have an hour-long presentation to do. Or they could be saving all their stuff up for the next D23. So, hey, Ed, glad to see you make it. I hope it wasn't a boring meeting. That's the one thing I don't miss about having a regular day job is meetings. Where you're sitting there trying to stay awake. Yeah, meetings were never fun. All right, so that is the news. We're caught up. I will check and see if anything popped up while we take a quick break, and we'll be right back talking about the Flash.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. Programming on the EXP is made possible by viewers like you, or your local comic shop, or that Kickstarter you backed, or the publisher you like, or comic industry professionals who want to share a message with the world. Really, anyone who wants to advertise with us can. If you're interested in seeing a product you know and love, or are creating, or are publishing, or are involved with, advertised here on The Experience, and having your message shared with our viewers, please reach out by scanning the QR code below or visiting our website and using the contact form.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on the Experience. And as I said, going to break, I was going to check to see if any new news popped up, and something did. This is interesting. The director for the upcoming Blue Beetle movie, Angel Manuel Soto, says that, well, I'll give you the quote. "We are part of the universe. We are part of the world. We are part of the plans that they have been creating for the future installments of the DCU." This is coming from an article he did with Total Film Magazine. But he went on to say, "But we're not tied to all the films from the past. Yes, our movie lives in the world where superheroes exist, but that doesn't mean that a certain event or certain alliance or certain things from the past dictate where our film is going." So Gunn has said recently that Blue Beetle is part of the DCU going forward, and but that the first film in the new DCU is still going to be Superman Legacy. So that's kind of that ambiguousness that I think is part of the problem right now for DC, why their films are not doing well. Now, Soto went on to say that our first movie, the way we wanted to do it, was always with the mentality that we wanted to do two more at least. And taking the traditional 3-act structure of a story, we wanted our first movie to practically be the first act of a saga. Now, this movie is very different from The Flash. In probably the biggest possible way is cost. The Flash is a $200 million movie. This was an $80 million movie. So that break-even point is very, very different. This movie was originally made with the idea that it was going to go on HBO Max. This was one of the previous regime's ideas to make movies direct for Max. And the idea, of course, was that the guy in charge, his bonuses and stuff were tied to how well HBO Max did. So if he could make movies that you would only see on Max, it would up the subscriptions. So Blue Beetle, Batgirl, these were movies made for HBO Max. And then when Safran and Gunn came in and they sat down and watched them, they judged Batgirl as being not good enough to go into theaters, because that's the new thing, is that everything is going to the theater, where they looked at Blue Beetle and said, we can put this in a theater. Now, quality-wise, it may not be that different, but Batgirl went on, added more budget. It ended up going 10 or 20 million above the initial budget, where Blue Beetle didn't. And also, it tied more into plans. Batgirl tied into plans that got scrapped, which would have been to make Michael Keaton the new Batman going forward, which would have taken place in the Flash movie. But Blue Beetle is more of a standalone. It takes place in Texas. It's, I think they have its own city name. I don't think they use an actual city name. But so Blue Beetle can be kind of standalone. Now, the fact that it doesn't count as the first movie of the new universe is interesting, but it's confusing, and I think that's part of the problem. And then let's get into the main thing here. Let me check real quick and see. We got lots of comments here. Nope, meetings seem to be just because people like hearing themselves talk. Yeah, there's that thing about, couldn't this have been an email? Josh says back in a flash. Hello, everyone. Oh, hey, Larissa. Good to see you. I'm super shocked about Marvel not being at Hall H. Yeah, that is surprising. I really thought we were going to get Fantastic Four there. But like I said, they may be saving that for D23. Hey, Bronze Age Nerds here. Hey, how you doing, bud? Josh says it's not great in their attempt to clear up the DCEU that they still need to clarify this stuff exactly. I think they just like the movie enough to say, yeah, we want this movie forward and retcon it. Yep. Today we're going to talk about The Flash, JD. More lucky than brains. Hey, how you doing? Sounds like the topic is, yes, underperforming Flash movie. Hey, John, good to see you. Blue Beetle is Django Fett, different timelines and kind of from the past. Yeah. And JD says, this universe stuff needs to stop. Make a good movie. That's all we want. Several movies that can one day be merged into a new movie. Okay, cool. But all this setup is getting gross. And I think JD's got a great point there. I think that's one of the problems going on with all of this stuff. Because you look at the Batman, Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves does a movie outside of everything else. It's the only movie you got to go see. It had a certain tone that he wanted to do. And there are some people who didn't like it, but a lot of people did. It did successful, and it's moving forward. It doesn't need to tie into Superman or any other movie. It's got its own little universe. Now, if you dropped Superman in the middle of Matt Reeves' Batman universe, it doesn't make any sense at all. But Michael Keaton's Batman or Ben Affleck's Batman makes more sense to have Superman. So you've got to have all these different versions. It's just really confusing. And I think that's something that DC needs to clear up. Figure says, Gunn sold his soul by saying The Flash was one of the best superhero movies of all time. No more soul. I think there is no way that Gunn wanted to have DC super connected, more connectivity, less freedom, creatively and otherwise. See, I don't necessarily agree with that part of it because, there is some advantages, but it doesn't need to be super connected. Like, Marvel can have these movies that are on the outside, but now they're starting to get bigger and bigger, where people are wondering about certain movies. Like, well, why did nobody talk about a celestial sticking out of the water while we're watching, She-Hulk, or while we're watching Moon Knight? It just, there are some downsides to connectivity, but. Let's see. John says, okay, look, I like the Flash movie, but I'm not the type of fan that riffs everything. But after watching the Flash and we still have questions, then the movie failed in that aspect. Right. So this is what I think is the big problem right now at DC. What DC needed to do was to come out and go, this is what's happening. These actors are part of the past. This is where we're going moving forward. The problem is when they made the decision to put Gunn and Safran in charge, they still had 4 movies that needed to come out, and they need the money. Warner Brothers is broke. They can only put out a certain number of movies a year because that's all the money they have, and they need these movies to do well to pay for the next movies. So they need to hype these movies. They need to get fans in the seats. And the problem is they've kind of cut off their nose to spite their face on this one by making this switch. And, and there's a ton of things that hurt the Flash besides this. But the indecision and people knowing that it's not going to be connected is hurting it. And because you've got so many different factions out there right now. You've got the Snyder fans who would probably have gone seen this movie, but they're still reeling because of the Henry Cavill thing. And the Henry Cavill thing, you can't really blame Gunn and Safran for, because it was all done before they started. And when they came in, they're like, wait, no, that's not where we're going. And Cavill wasn't under a contract at that point. It was just, hey, tell people you're back because you're going to be in this movie. So it's been horribly handled by the studio. They need to draw a line in the sand and talk about what they're doing going forward without these hemming and hawing. Is Jason Momoa going to be Aquaman going forward? Or what is all this Lobo talk? Is Blue Beetle going to be in the movie? Is Ezra Miller going to continue? Because Andy Muschietti is still out there talking about how he wants to do more movies. But, Ezra Miller is kind of toxic right now. And I am all for people getting redemption arcs, getting a chance to make up for their wrongs. But I don't think he's done it yet, So I think that's one of the things that really hurt the movie. Now, the studio's out there saying, well, we couldn't promote it with Ezra Miller, and there are no late night shows. Now, see, you and I, we're on the internet all the time. We're doing, I'm doing shows like this. You're watching shows like this. So you're up to date. You know what's going on, that The Flash is coming out. You know that, what's going on with Ezra Miller and this actor and that actor. And, oh, Ben Affleck's in it. Oh, they cut this scene. Henry Cavill's in. He's out. We know all that stuff because we're paying attention to it. But a large part of the viewing audience doesn't. They wake up and they look in the newspaper or they look online. They go, hey, what's playing? Oh, there's a Flash movie. We should go see that. And a lot of them get their information about movies and stuff through late night shows and things like that. And when they're all dark, it really hurts their ability to promote. So that is pulling away some of it. So let me just catch up on some comments here. Isn't DC supposed to be connecting in terms of games, video? Yeah, all of that. They're supposed to be interconnected, but I don't think that's going to start until Superman Legacy, the Amanda Waller series, and Creature Commandos. Those are going to be the early stuff. But like I said, they've got to get through these movies this year that they already have in the can. I don't think they would be this big a problem if there hadn't been a pandemic and they could have gotten these movies out sooner instead of everything backlogging. So, if Flash would have come out earlier and then Safran and James Gunn came on board, that would have been one thing. But they had done these things so far out and they kept having to push them that they're in this kind of limbo stage. And by not being definitive on what's happening, they're trying to get people to still go see these movies, but instead they're turning off the fan base. Lyle says, good movies are in the eyes of the beholder. Absolutely. There's a lot of movies out there that I've seen that I like and people don't. I actually enjoyed Quantum Mania. Kyle was a big fan of Shazam too. Now I haven't seen it yet, but Kyle liked it. So, there's always these different, you can't please everybody, so that you can throw out. But whether people are going to the movie, I think DC is just in this state where there's so much unknown about what's happening and so much divisiveness between the Snyder fans, the non-Snyder fans, that they really need to just come out and go, this is what we're doing, period. And now Gunn, who is pretty well loved over at Marvel with Guardians, and people liked his Suicide Squad movie, is getting all of this negative feedback because he's now seen as the anti-Snyder. You know, the Henry Cavill thing gets put on him, even though it really wasn't him. So, Josh says, no one talks about Celestial in the ocean because they're trying to pretend the Eternal movie never happened. It's a great line, Josh. That's a great line. But something I've learned over the years is if we don't like something, Kevin Feige is going to double down. And he's going to make it, we are going to like it. People are talking about Thor the Dark World now with higher respect. Ben Kingsley, people are excited that Trevor Slattery is coming back for the Wonder Man movie. They hated him in Iron Man 3. It was the worst decision Marvel ever made. We love Trevor Slattery now. Kevin Feige doubles down to the point where he'll get you to like whatever it is that he wants to put out there that you think you don't like. Just, it's something. But Braun says that's what Gunn said about animation and live action, at least, but he also talked about Elseworlds. Yeah, Elseworlds will be labeled as Elseworlds. A Batman movie is Elseworlds. I don't know about the Swamp Thing. I know that James Mangold's movie is going to be Swamp Thing. I don't know if that'll be Elseworlds or main universe. It'll probably be main universe, but Larissa says, yeah, today Nintendo announced a huge Batman trilogy on the Switch. Oh, I didn't see that. Trying to get DC back on board with video games. Very cool. I'm going to have to look for that. John says, it should be a hard reboot. Yes, I love Peacemaker and love Aquaman, but a hard reboot is needed to clear all these things and have fans get ready for a fresh start. I agree with you. It really should have been a hard reboot, but, you know, just pull off the Band-Aid. Let's see. Figure says, is it possible that the Batgirl movie will be released? No. Once it became a tax write-off, it became illegal for them to release it in any way that could make a profit of any kind. So they can't put it on YouTube because YouTube is monetized. They can't put it on at a convention because people pay for convention tickets. They cannot make any money on the movie. So I would be stunned if Batgirl is ever seen outside of, I mean, if anybody ever gets a copy of it or anything. So I think Batgirl is just dead. At this point, I don't see any way other than, yeah, it really does need to be a hard reboot. I don't think Gunn like the Flash. I think WB held himself to his head. Okay. So you're saying that the stuff they were saying about the Flash. I don't think the Flash was as bad. First thing, we got to stop looking at reviews and stuff. Doing our own opinions is a better way to go. But the Flash is getting a decent audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's getting, it got I think last time I looked, it was a 67% critic score, but an 85% an audience score. So there are some problems. I hear the baby shower thing is horrible. And there's some bad CGI, stuff like that, but I don't think it's a horrible movie. And, maybe they watched it and said, oh, well, we'll fix the CGI, obviously, and it'll be better. And then they never fixed the CGI. I don't know. Let's see. Batwoman was horrible. Oh, the TV show. Yeah. I need a drink now, Larissa. Thanks. John loves Shazam too. There you go. Quantumania should have been a series. Yeah, that's not bad. By the way, if you want to, I watched the director's commentary on Quantumania. It's now on Disney Plus. And listening to Peyton Reed and Jeff Loveness talk about the movie and some of the things they were trying to do and some of the reasons they did, some of the things they decided, actually makes me like the movie more. And one of the things they talk about is Kang and how if you read the comics, Kang loses constantly. But he always comes back. He comes back with another plan and another plan and another plan, and he doesn't give up. And that's the Kang that they were going for. It wasn't that he's the Thanos threat. He is this reoccurring, it's the numbers, it's the tries and stuff like that. and he's building up to being the conqueror. So it's an interesting approach, and I actually liked what they were saying about it. Lewis says, I liked a lot of the Eternals, not all of it, but parts were cool. I agree. I actually enjoy the Eternals. It's a very different type of movie, and I like the characters in it. So I'd love to see more of them and to see that continue. Maybe a different director, but what did you like about it, FD? Oh, okay. I don't think we really know enough about Gunn and Safran's plan. Yeah, we don't. There's still a lot to learn about what they're doing. And they haven't even started yet. They're getting caught up in all this stuff while they're still dealing with the fallout of the previous regime. Should Elseworlds be the best movie? So the Joker and Batman were arguably the best DC has to offer. I don't know about that one. I think all movies should be good. I think all movies are made to be good, and just sometimes they miss. I don't think anybody sits down to make a bad movie. Nobody writes a script for it to be a bad movie. Everybody goes into this with the idea of making something great. Let's see. I watched The Flash, found it everything in the kitchen sink, but in a bad way. Flashenstein's monster, nice. Did you enjoy Predator or Preacher show? Preacher was good. I thought Preacher was really good. How are box office sales for The Flash? The Flash did not do well. It was originally expected to do like 140, and then right beforehand they dropped the estimates to about 70, and then it was 60, and it came in at like 54 for the weekend, which is way down. But it's expected to win next week as well, so it might churn along, but I think it's probably going to come in with Black Adam numbers. So, hey, Jeezy Cheesy, the casuals are tired of reboots. The Batman and 2 are not being part of the reboot is confusing. Yeah, they really need to streamline it and kind of remember that not everybody is a comic geek. So all movies should be good. Yes. It's about the same as Black Adam, which wasn't great. Yep. So, all right, guys, we need to take one more quick break. And when we come back, and JD, quick break. When we come back, I got some key Flash collectibles to go over. So we'll be right back.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out. Twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. By the way, to producer JD, I like the new bumper. And at some point, next time I do a comedy book, I will be introducing a character named General Ennui. So, all right, let's do the key collectibles real quick because, I mean, put them together.
I apologize. Just a second. There's a hiccup on my computer. Let me get it real quick.
All right.
Why is that not working?
To answer, while he's doing that, to answer Figure's question, I heard that he said about the CGI, but I haven't seen the actual quote. So I'd want to see what context he said it in before. It does sound like a BS line. It really does. But I want to see the context that he said it in. You know, was there a purpose? Was there trying to make it look like the era that the film was from? I don't know. So I really want to see the context that it was in.
Processing. There we go. Okay. My apologies.
There we go. All right. Key issues of the Flash. Heralds of Galactus issues. Interesting. Showcase number 4, of course, is the first appearance of Barry Allen as the Flash. This is high-end, $142,000. So if you got one of these, you can go buy yourself a new car when you sell it. Median's about $25,000. Low end is $7,300. Showcase number 8, which is only the second appearance of the Flash. So he wasn't always in Showcase once he debuted, from 1957. This is where Captain Cold debuted and his origin. This goes for about 12 grand, about 2.3 for a median price and 1.1 for a low end. We've got Flash 105s when he switched over to his own book. But they started at a higher number. I think Showcase became the Flash or something. They do weird things with the numbers back then. From 1959, first appearance and origin of Mirror Master, a character they haven't done in live action. And the films. They've done it in TV, but this goes for 14,000. Medians about 1,600. Low ends about 450. Flash 120 is interesting. This was the first one of Kid Flash and the Flash. High end on this is only 540. Medians 100. Low ends 30. You might be able to pick one of these up for your collection. Then we got this is the big one. This is the introduction of the multiverse concept and bringing Jay Garrick's Flash into the Silver Age. This is Flash 123. High end in this is $5,200. Median's about 1,600. Low end's about 480. Superman number 149 from 1961. This was the first time the Flash appeared in a Superman title. So he started doing crossovers. This was about a $145 book. You get about 45 for median, 15 on the low end. Then Flash 126. It's the first time we meet Henry and Nora Allen, Barry's parents. This goes for about 300 on the high end, median 60, low end is 20. Flash 129, first appearance of Silver Age Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, and the Justice Society. This goes for 300 on the high end, 100 in the median, $30 on the low end. Green Lantern 13 was the first time Barry Allen and Hal Jordan meet. This was from 1962. High end on this is 465. Median's about 85, low end's 30, and I'm pretty sure I have this in my collection. And then Flash 165, the marriage of Barry Allen and Iris West. High end on this is 100, median is 20, low end is $8. All right, let's blast through some of the comments real quick before we wrap up the show. I appreciate the kind words, everybody. That's really nice of you. I'm glad I've spent my whole life trying to be cool. Trust me, I've never succeeded. So if I'm doing it here, it's by accident, I promise. The best line of Shazam 2 was where they asked Shazam to join the Justice Society and made a wisecrack about, isn't it weird to have two different justice groups, and love the sound of Avengers. Nice. Let's see. I keep forgetting the welcome bronze. Oh, there you go. Just since the stars happy to contribute. The idea, of course, is we are in the perspective of the Flash. He says everything is distorted in terms of lights and textures. Okay, that does sound like BS to me. Let's see. We enter the water world, which is basically being in Barry's point of view. It was part of the design, so if it looks a little weird to you, that was intended. Okay. Yeah, it's still kind of weird. It sounds like a cop-out quote, but do you think that he's telling the truth? He's lying. I agree with you. Okay. I hate to, let's see. Yeah, Larissa, those are some pretty cool covers. I love the old Golden Age covers and Silver Age covers. So, yeah, wow, pretty crazy. The early 60s is the first time Barry crossed over with Clark and Hal. Yeah, I mean, Barry first appeared in the late 50s, so it wasn't that far into it. But yeah, it was a few years before they really started crossing the characters over. And that was always a big problem because you had to kind of keep track of what everybody was doing in their own books. So, but back in the 60s, a lot of the books were pretty self-contained. There weren't a lot of ongoing stories, so made it a little easier. Marvel really did the ongoing thing in the 60s. So, all right, guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the first episode of Secret Invasion. I got about 20 minutes left to watch on it. So if you get a chance, try to watch it tonight so we can have as spirited a conversation tomorrow about it as we've had today about The Flash. So I appreciate you all. Really love it when you guys chime in like that. It makes such a great show. So thank you guys, and we will see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for Comics Collectibles coming up next.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.